A big hello and welcome. It's Kate from Zen Stitching, and I'm super excited that you're here with me today. We're in the middle of our Making Zen artist series, and today I'm super excited to be talking with Karen Turner, who is joining us for Making Zen. A big hello and welcome, Karen.
Thank you very much. It's delightful to be here.
And it's absolutely delightful to be talking with you. We've had a few chats behind the scenes, kind of talking about what kind of things and projects and all those kind of good things. So I'm super excited that you're joining us because you are an amazing textile artist and very, would you say, prolific? There's something that seems to be happening either on your Instagram or YouTube, or there's always something happening. One of the things that I'm thinking of is your 365-day project. Would you like to share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, it's kind of started by accident, really. I just thought, I think it was this is my fourth year doing it, so it's 2022, and I just thought it would be interesting to stitch something every day in one place. So just have one place to collect some daily stitches, just to see how it looked, really. And this is how most things start, isn't it? You know, you try something just to see how it looks. And yeah, here I am. I'm still doing it. It's mainly a way of witnessing the passage of time, because I mean, a lot of my work is about time anyway. And I kind of think of it as capturing a few moments of each day on a piece of cloth in thread. And I just find that a very meaningful thing to do.
I love hearing that you've been doing it since 2022. So that's what we're into our third year,
But this is the fourth year.
fourth year of doing that.
Yeah,
And
23, 24. Yeah.
yes, I know it's got to get
I know. This is why you have to pin time down. It just runs away if you don't.
That's so true, exactly. Or stitch time down, as the case may be. Do you have a practice of stitching daily, or you, when you have the 365 days of stitching, or it's what you would like to do, and so that's kind of the general structure, but you're not really hard on yourself if you don't quite get to a day?
I have genuinely never missed a day. I don't know how I've done it. You know, I don't necessarily stitch the same time every day, and there have been days where I've thought, "Oh, crikey, it's nearly bedtime. I better do today." But I haven't missed a day.
That's wonderful. That's so cool. What do you think? Because I know I always start off with grand gestures of wanting to do something, and they last for a couple of days, and then the enthusiasm peters out. What do you think it is about the project that keeps you coming back on a daily basis?
I think it's exactly the same as life. Every day is the same but different. Every day is different. And I think of the work I do on it as mark making with stitch. And because of you know, every day is different thread, different color, different mark, different sized block, different shaped block. Every day really is different, but very similar. And I really like the way that imitates real life. That you know, it's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day mundane routine of everything without really noticing anything that's happening. You know, that's kind of bigger than you. You know, like looking out the window and looking at what's happening in nature, for instance, or and it's very easy if you live in an urban environment to kind of lose touch with that cyclical nature of time, how time comes around again and again.
And that's such a beautiful and poetic way of describing your practice. Would you say that the area that you stitch is a size that you've kind of, it's not too big, not too small, so it's not onerous to stitch. It's a nice gentle size.
Exactly that. Yes, exactly. Shall I show you a bit?
I'd love to see. Yes, please.
Oh, this is this year's. So I mean, I tend to do it on a long roll because I think of it because it's a length of time. So, but you can see that each bit is probably an inch or so, an inch and a half.
Beautiful.
That's where we're up to today. This is today's here.
Wow.
So I mean, if I don't know how close I can get it, but you can see, this is quite a fine thread, and sometimes it's just a few straight stitches, and it really doesn't take that long. But I think the impact is in the overall thing when you see all of it together.
Yes.
It looks a lot more complex than it actually is. I mean, they're very, very simple stitches, and just a little bit every day, and you can see how easy some of them are. But this is January, so it's got a winter colour palette, which I tend to use. I tend to use the colours of the seasons.
Lovely.
But it looks very complex. It really isn't. There's nothing very difficult there at all. It's just persistence, that's all. Probably a case of having too much time on my hands. I don't know.
I'd say it's something that brings you a lot of joy, the act of sitting and stitching and creating these beautiful moments. And like you say, kind of anchoring you in the time and in the space.
Yeah.
To really be aware of what is happening around us, because like you say, it's so easy to, and I look out the window, so easy to get kind of focused on the indoors, particularly when it's cold in the colder seasons, that you don't notice the little nuances that are happening outside or around us in various ways. And I'm curious as well, because with this 365 days of stitching times 4, that's a lot of stitches.
It is.
Do you find that you plan them, or every day is like you just think, oh, today I feel like doing such and such? What is your process around the stitches?
I choose a colour, I thread a needle, and I start stitching. There is genuinely no plan ever, unless it's a particular day. So, for example, because I sell the template, so I plan the template a year in advance. So the only time I might plan something is, for example, here, this is the spring equinox.
Ah, beautiful.
So I might look at that and think, it's about equal day and night. How would I render that visually? So that's the only time I would think about it, as if it was a particularly significant date.
I see. Oh, how beautiful! That's got me thinking about all of these possibilities that are happening in your calendar of your stitching. And when you say you sell the templates for them, have you mapped out your 2025 template, or do you do them retrospectively?
Yeah, no, that is the 2025 template. You can purchase and stitch along with that this year. Yeah, I usually release it sort of late December for the coming year. And it is a challenge coming up with a different template every year. And I don't know what I'm going to do next year.
You got plenty of time.
Yeah, I have.
So now I understand. So you sell the template, which is how the lines and the spaces are gridded out.
Yeah.
It's entirely up to the individual how they wish to stitch it, or do they follow along with you and get inspiration?
No, exactly. It's exactly. I much prefer people to go away and do their own thing. Otherwise, everybody ends up with the same thing as me, and nobody's. It's very easy to make up stitches. I think it's probably very tempting to think, oh, I couldn't possibly do that, but you can. You really, really can. I mean, you could do the whole thing in running stitch if you wanted to. And once you start stitching, you'll develop either a bigger repertoire, or you'll imagine new ways of using that stitch.
Yes. And
all you've got to do really is change the colour or change the thread from a thick thread to a fine thread, and the same stitch looks completely different. So it's really easy. It's just a matter of confidence, I think. Pick up a needle and start.
That's it. Just get going. I couldn't agree with you more. And it really is. The more we engage with the materials, the more we become inspired. We think, oh, what will happen if I try, like you say, a different style of thread, or I do longer stitches or shorter stitches, or whatever. It's really going to change up the overall effect. So like you say, you could do running stitch and you fill a whole length of fabric just with running stitch and its variation.
Easily. Yeah, and more, I would imagine.
Yeah.
One day I'll try it.
Add that to your ever-growing list of things to try.
Yeah.
Well, I just absolutely love it, and I really do like that you have the length of fabric, but you also have it mapped out so that each square is, it's a nice welcoming amount. So it's like you say, if you get to bedtime and you realise that you haven't quite done your stitching for the day, no big deal. You can fill it in and get those stitches done so that you're kind of on track. I guess in some senses it's almost like, because you've got the template and then you come in with the stitching on top of it, it's a bit like giving yourself a star, a gold star. The stitching itself is the star.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
Yeah. Or like calendars, when some people cross off days on calendars, it's that same kind of thing.
Yeah, it is very much like a calendar, I suppose, yeah.
And I can see when it's explained that way, the desire to want to do more, because you've got these things to fill out and you want to keep going and kind of check it off or do it. So that does make a lot of sense. I was having a quick peek on some of the things that you're up to lately, and I can see that you're already starting to develop the course that you're going to teach us for Making Zen, which looks absolutely delightful. Would you like to share a little bit about that with us?
Yes, it's kind of intuitive daily stitching on scraps. Basically, it's a way of, quite a creative way of using up tiny scraps of fabric and just stitching very intuitively and creatively on them to create something like, a little sample that you could put in a sketchbook, for example, or something like this little sample could well inspire a larger piece of work. I can see that working as maybe a larger quilt or something like that. So it's about using all little bits of fabric and some very simple stitches to create something that may well inspire you to make something bigger or better. Or
I love seeing in those examples that you really do like to layer your fabric. So you'll work with shears and different thicknesses and colours and textures within that. So it really is a delightful feast for the senses, so to speak.
Yeah. I do work a lot with layers. This is another layered piece, which you can kind of see through almost. But I find these things very, very meaningful because a lot of my work is about time. These are too, because I see, looking through these layers as looking into layers of time. So I kind of see it as a way of sort of looking into the past or seeing beyond the surface of something, looking at the truth that underlies all things. And I find them very meaningful. That's what they are to me. They could just be, a nice little thing for your sketchbook. But, they are very meaningful to me. I find some of them very moving.
Yes, and I always, I love the layering of fabric and how it changes what we see from putting something on top of another thing or stitching through it or whatever. It really does. It kind of like hints at what's below, but you don't quite know as well. And it really does create a beautiful experience for the viewer, and I'm sure for you as well, stitching, going through the different layers and making those marks on the fabric.
Yes, it does. And mostly I make for myself. I make the thing I need to make in that moment. And if somebody else likes it or sees something meaningful in it, then that's great.
Yeah.
That's more than I was hoping for.
Oh, well, I love that though. Isn't it fun when sometimes you create something and you maybe have a particular meaning behind it, but someone will come along and view it and see it with perhaps a different different perspective or different eyes, so they bring
Yeah.
their own experiences to it, and that's quite beautiful too when work can have many different interpretations.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it
I think
really
we
is.
see, depending on our experience, don't we? You know, we bring our experience to whatever we look at, and how the way we engage with things.
Yeah, yes, it's so true, and art has a beautiful way of pulling out those experiences from each individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's particularly beautiful in your work in the sense that because there are elements of abstraction, so people really can choose to interpret it however they wish.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. I mean, I find abstract art much more meaningful for that reason, because it isn't a picture of a thing. You know, it's a collection of shapes and colours and lines, and I find that much more meaningful. And also, I think that's the reason we're visual artists. I think sometimes a piece of visual art like that will say more than words or a figurative image might otherwise do. I think you kind of see more possibility in something that's a bit more abstract, that goes beyond what words or pictures might be able to say.
Which is a great skill to have to be able to practice in the abstract because each person has their own individual kind of leanings towards what they feel comfortable working in. And abstraction, I feel in some senses, is maybe even more challenging than realism in a sense. I mean, they both are quite challenging, but for different reasons.
Yes, yeah,
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 I aspire to both.
yeah. Same.
And the other lovely thing in your work, Karen, which I think comes through, is there's just an element of playfulness. There's a real experimental feeling of playing with the materials and seeing what will happen, and that's quite a delight to see as well.
Thank you very much. That's unintentional. That's just me not knowing what I'm doing.
But it
But it is
also
fun.
portrays, yeah, exactly, and that's what I was about to say. You can see your spirit shining through. That you're having fun, you're enjoying working with the medium, and playing, just having an enjoyable time.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. That's so nice to hear. Thank you.
You're most welcome, and I love seeing what you're creating at the moment, and I'd love to know a little bit more about your journey as a textile artist or a creative. What kind of path took you to where you are today?
A very long and winding one. I was very fortunate actually to grow up in a house where my mother was a very skilled dressmaker. She made most of my clothes as a child. In the olden days, when it was cheaper to make clothes than it was to buy them. And my auntie was very good at knitting and crochet and needlepoint and all kinds of needlework. My grandmother was very good at patchwork. So between the three of them, there was always something for me to make. There was always fabric to practice on. I think I made my first patchwork bag at about the age of 7 or 8, something like that. I made a patchwork quilt in my teens. I took it to university with me. So, you know, I've always kind of made things. And I was quite arty at school. And my first degree was in art and English. But then after that, you see, people then started saying to me, oh, well, art's fine as a hobby. You better keep it as a hobby. But, you know, you need to get a proper job now. So I ended up getting lots and lots of proper jobs. I didn't like any of them. And finally, after 40 years of getting a proper job, I've come around to the idea that actually I can make a living out of making art. And so that's the happy place I've ended up in.
And isn't that a nice realization? It's I think a lot of people hear that it's like, well, that's very nice to be creating, but what are you going to do to pay the bills? So isn't it wonderful when you can be in a place where you can do both and enjoy the process?
It is. And to be fair, in all fairness, I think at the time everybody was right, because that was the days before the internet. I mean, it's very easy to reach a comparatively large audience online on social media and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that would have been impossible probably 20 years ago.
That's true, isn't it? We really do forget how much technology has revolutionized our life.
Yes.
I mean, today we're connecting. You're in the UK, I'm in Canada, and we're
Yeah.
having this lovely conversation. And
Yeah.
we couldn't do that not so long ago. Not
It's
being
crazy, isn't
filmed
it?
and all that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Magical.
It really is. It really is. And that's really nice to remember though, because I know sometimes we all say, oh, Instagram, like with the algorithm and just our different social platforms, but it also does bring us together. And I feel that the online textile world is just such a rewarding and enriching place to be, which is so much more than my immediate surrounds. You can reach and be inspired by so many more people.
Exactly. Totally agree. Yeah. I've seen so much amazing work just from browsing on Instagram. It's amazing.
It totally is, and it's a great platform when we choose to choose to enjoy it.
Yeah. It has its moments, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It really does. Well, and we were kind of talking on the textile sides of things, but Karen, you're quite, would you say, a multimedia artist? You like to dabble in all kinds of techniques?
Yeah, I love mixed media. Yeah, yeah. I'm more, increasingly more. I find if I work in sketchbooks a lot of the time because I can't really explain why, but spend a lot of time in sketchbooks, but the sketchbooks tend to be I can't just stick to one thing. So it's a bit of pencil and it's a bit of pen and it's a bit of collage and it's a bit of paint and before I know it, it's got a bit of everything in it. But then I find it, I really enjoy that. I think I really enjoy the way different media speak to each other. So the way a collage, for instance, might inspire a stitched piece or a quilt or something, and vice versa. A stitched sample might well inspire a collage or a painting. And I really like the way that the shapes and materials and textures sort of bounce off each other like that. I find it very exciting.
It is a wonderful way to work. I was just thinking back to, because I'm curious, when you said you studied art at university, did you specialize in one particular area, or was it a broad visual arts course?
No, at that time, I mean, this is a long time ago. This is the 1980s, so it was mainly drawing and painting with I think there was a little 6-week textiles course thrown in, a 6-week ceramics course, and a bit of mosaic, and it was a little bit of everything, and absolutely zero careers advice. so, I mean, good fun. I enjoyed every minute of it, but preparation for life, zero.
No. Well, I have to say I went through in the 90s, the late 90s, and mine was very specialized. So we had a year of doing whatever, and then we chose whatever fields we wanted to play in, and mine was textiles because I just love textiles. But we were incredibly lucky to have a head of workshop who saw and understood the value of being able to draw and being able to paint. So we had like watercolor lessons and gouache and a couple of different things. So I know at the time I'm like, I just want to do textiles because I love textiles so much. But now I'm incredibly grateful that she also encouraged these other skills, which helps just inform our creative practice, either through, quickly sketching out an idea through to just playing, which then, like you say, informs your textile work again. So
Yeah.
I can imagine your books would be beautiful just for having all of those different mediums that you explore within it.
Well, I don't very often look at them. I kind of do them, and then I do look through them when I'm looking for either looking for something that I remember doing or looking for inspiration of some kind. But I think that for me the joy is in the moment of the doing, But I agree, having some formal training is really helpful, because you bring all that training on, composition and harmony and balance and light and shade and value and all of it. You do carry all of that into whatever you do. So even if it's just, I say just abstract, I mean, abstract is difficult, but, even if it's not figurative, you still need all those underpinning things as some sort of foundation. So I think everything, I mean, it's the way to look at your life, isn't it? Everything you've done so far has been preparation for now, and it has.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful way to describe it. And the way you describe your sketchbooks is like a visual journal, pretty much.
Yes, it's basically a journal without the writing. I think.
But again, like you say, it's very similar to your textiles in that you're recording time, you're making marks, you're being in the moment, being present, which is a lovely way of recording being.
Yeah, I suppose. And one of the things I keep meaning to do, and I always forget it, is to date my pages. I forget every time. And I really wish I would remember to do that, because I just think it would be useful to know, what day was that?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, I suppose it doesn't matter, but I just, however many times I remind myself, don't forget to write the date on it. No.
That is a good point, though. Like, I was just thinking the other day, we rarely print off photos these days, but when we do, I'm encouraging myself to get into the habit of writing who's in the picture and the date and where it was taken, because you look through some of my grandmother's images, for example, and sometimes we don't know everybody who's in the picture or where it was taken, and so those little capturing those little details is, I think, quite poignant. Also, I'm finding that these days I'm like, did that happen last year or was that 2 years ago? Like, my understanding of time is changing as well. So,
Yes.
that was in 2025 or whatever.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Those experiences, I found, and I'm curious actually. So I found since COVID that my perception of time has changed a lot. It's much more fluid, and everything all seems to happen at once, but obviously not, because it's all in separate things. Do you find that with your daily mark making and stitching and journaling that you have a different experience of time, perhaps because you're a little bit more present in each of those moments?
No. No, not really. Because time just, I mean, I don't know where it goes. I really, because this is one of the reasons I started doing it, was because, I was alarmed at how quickly time was flying. And I thought, it's only going to get quicker the older I get. So I thought, if I consciously sort of sit down and notice this time and stitch it, and think, this is right, this is today, this is now, maybe that'll, I don't know, get time under control somehow. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, it didn't. So, I mean, no, it doesn't. For those few moments, yes, I'm present, but the rest of the time, I don't know where it goes.
No, I know. It has a habit of disappearing, doesn't it? It's just like,
ridiculous.
Where did that day go? Where did that week go? Yeah. Well, that kind of stuff.
And then you get another birthday and you think, how can I possibly be this old? How is that even possible?
Yes.
I don't know.
Exactly. It's like, that's not possible. Let's just freeze time so there are no more birthdays.
Yeah.
But then I guess the nice thing about your marking of time is that you have this lovely cloth and your books as recollections to look back on what you've done with some of the time.
Yeah, it is. That's probably well, it's probably a very human thing to do, isn't it? To sort of, I mean, it's a kind of memorializing, isn't it? I'm kind of memorializing myself, I suppose.
Yes.
For what purpose, I don't know, because I have no children. I've got nobody to hand this on to.
It'll get some ways and where it will be celebrated, I'm sure. I was just thinking about, I guess the width of your cloth made me think of the Bayeux tapestry.
Ah, yes, yeah.
That was created in what, 1066 or afterwards, because it's
Ish,
about the
shortly
Battle of
afterwards,
Hastings.
yes, yeah.
And so, and that's quite long,
Yeah,
and that same kind of width that tells a tale. So maybe
yeah.
your cloth is not the Battle of Hastings, but the life of Karen, so to speak.
Possibly.
I'm just thinking of it now because I went and saw it when we were in France last year, and just how
Mm,
it's displayed, and you kind of walk in this big U shape to see
yeah.
all of the different kind of panels of the story. So
Mm,
so maybe it will be displayed like that one of these days.
yeah, possibly. I mean, I suppose when I've got a few more done, I may well look at exhibiting them. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Well, there's a nice idea.
Yeah, maybe 10 years. There we go.
Another 10 years sounds good. Oh, I love it. Well, that's so inspiring, just to kind of hear a little bit about your process and this mark making of time, and just our, like you say, our human desire to want to capture it in some
Mm,
way, shape, or form. I guess, like you say, it's making sense of the moments. And would you also say that through the stitching process, particularly, that it helps you feel grounded and whole? Is, I guess, is a way I like to think of it.
mm. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because particularly, I mean, I like to stitch this. The cloth I'm stitching on is a vintage sheet. It's a
Oh,
French linen
man.
sheet, and it's really old. I would say it's either early 20th century or late 19th. But I think again, it's about time. It's about stitching the past and present together.
Mm.
And I think in doing that, I think there's also something very healing about stitching, about surgeons do it with wounds. It's about somehow some kind of mending happens, and I think
Mm.
it can be a kind of repair that we do on
Mm.
ourselves, because we do get frayed edges, don't we? And we get a bit ragged, and we do need darling sometimes. And I think it can be quite restorative to sit quietly just with needle and thread, and just to see what happens when you stitch something on a piece of cloth.
So beautiful. You've just so moving, and I agree with you 100%. Which is stitching is mending,
Mm,
and I believe so as well. In it's such a great metaphor for both the physical fabrics that we might be stitching, but also the metaphysical stitching, that we stitch ourselves together and we mend ourselves and we hold
yeah,
ourselves together, and
yeah.
how that can help us process things as well, deep emotions that sometimes can't be processed in other ways, but there's something about the stitching process that helps
Mm,
work through those
mm,
feelings.
yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
Well, Karen, it's been so lovely talking to you today. It's an absolute pleasure. I love connecting with you, and I'm thrilled that you're part of the Making Zen online retreat, because I know so many more people are going to be giving your stitching techniques a try, and will be inspired by your idea of doing a little bit of stitching or mark making in a journal on a day-to-day basis as well.
Mm.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Kate. It's a joy for me to be here too. It's a real honour and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me in this creative journey. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And if you'd like to learn more about Making Zen, please check out the links below, where you can find out all about the workshops and creativity, community, and all that kind of good stuff. Wishing you many happy hours of stitching.